Hi, all of you, and welcome to this special session on how to ace a personal interview round of the IIMs, IITs, and other MBA B schools. Now, I know already some of the business school interviews have already started. How well prepared you are and how to prepare for those interviews is what I am going to take up in this 45-minute session. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have. Questions could be as simple as, how do I even answer a why an MBA question? Why MBA is a very, very difficult question for a lot of people to answer. But if you can connect it to your own career or to your own life, that is what makes it very plausible, very believable. And that is what I'm going to tell you. How do you sell your story as far as an interview is concerned? Remember one thing before I take it further. This is your interview. It's a personal interview. It's called a personal interview round. Before you go into that interview room, apart from the fact that there is a CAT score or a ZAT score or any other percentile that you have, apart from the fact that there is a score in your 10th, 12th and degree and maybe a work experience of whatever number of months, years, there is very little that the interviewer knows about you. It's almost impossible. And at the end of the day, a lot of people have an 80 and 70% in 10th, 12th and degree. A lot of people have a 90% in 10th, 90% in 12th, and maybe a 70% in degree. Many a time, it is easy to realize why somebody has got a high score or a low score in their academics. You may have worked with Amazon, Flipkart, Microsoft, or a TCS, Infosys, or any other institute, any other company. It doesn't still tell anything about you as an individual. The CAT score is just an aptitude score. It's a good score to have. If you have a higher score, 99.99, for example, people will say, hey, wow, you are a good guy. You have a 96 percentile, you are okay. You have a 90 percentile, are you good enough at all? That may be one of your considerations. But the fact is, and the real fact is, that it's very, very difficult for the interviewer to look at the percentile or look at your 10th, 12th and degree scores alone and judge whether you could be the right kind of a candidate for their B school. And that is where we come to, and that is why, frankly, these interviews even exist. Mind you, whether it's an IIM Ahmedabad or a Calcutta or a Bangalore, or for that matter, many other institutes give more than 40% weightage to the interviews for their final selections. 40%, sometimes it's 50% also, and in a couple of cases close to 60%, which means to say, if you are able to get into that interview room, voila, it just means that you have as good a chance of getting a final selection as anybody else who has gone into that room. Yes, you might have got a lower score or a higher score, but that 40, 50, 60% weightage, depending on institute to institute, can make a complete difference, whether you can make it or you can't make it. And that's where I come down for you to make sure that this particular session is very, very specific. How do you prepare specifically for certain types of questions? And how do you sell your story? That is going to be my session today. Welcome to this How to Ace Your Personal Interview Round by ARKS. Very, very brief introduction about myself. I am Calcutta alumnus, currently a career coach and a student mentor, more than 22 years experience in education, especially test preparation. I've done my MBA from IIM Calcutta and engineering from Osmania University in electronics. My work summary, I was last the president and CEO of an MBA group at CL Educate. I was the co-founder and the CEO of my own company called Vista Mind Education, co-founder and director at a Vanguard Business School. I was director of Time Mumbai, the city director of Time Mumbai. I was also the product head of Time Mumbai, co-founder and partner at Time Kolkata. I've also trained people in CAT, GRE, GMAT, and other areas at Time Hyderabad, which is the headquarters of Time. And much prior to that, immediately after my MBA, I was also senior executive in marketing and sales at Maruti Udyog Limited. Today, it's called the Maruti Suzuki. With that kind of a background and 22 years experience, I hope I will give you something of how you can sell your own story in an interview. That's what we come down to, guys. Let's look at what is your personal life story going to be, and what is it that are the ingredients of your personal life story that you need to teach. These are some of the essentials that I'm going to discuss, where in every interview, let's say you go to 5 interviews, at the end of these 5 interviews, you can be sure that everything about your personal life story and a professional life story will be asked. Your personal life story will start with, who are you? What are the things that can ask you? Okay, tell me about yourself is a very, very obvious question, but more often than not these days, nobody asks this question very specifically. They can ask you on your strengths and weaknesses, hobbies and interests, and interestingly, certain special issues that each one of you might have. It could be unrelated graduation. Let's say you are an engineer in civil and suddenly looking at a management, or you are a BDS candidate, a dentist, and suddenly looking at an MBA, or you are a BSc in physics and suddenly looking at an MBA, or a BA in English for that matter and thinking of an MBA. What the interviewer will try to put into your mind is guilt. What they will try to do is to tell you or try to prove it to you that you have no clue why you're doing what you're trying to do. So the questions can be very sharp, very incisive in terms of asking you, or rather probing you, your reasons for doing MBA. So if it's a completely unrelated graduation from where you are looking at, that could be a very important issue. The other question which normally asks, and a lot of students come back and ask me this question, sir, can we take a gap year? Will gap year matter in an interview? Can I take let's say, for example, you have graduated in 2022 and have not been doing anything for the last 6 months. Would that affect your final selection? Or worst still, let's say you finished in 2021 and it's been like you have been preparing for CAT 2022 for almost 1.5 years. How would you even explain the gap? Is this the gap that we are discussing actually? So these questions also can be asked, and they can make you feel a little bit guilty that, hey, you have wasted your life again. Professional gap. Let's say you've taken a break. You finished your entire academics, started working, and then took a break for a year for again your CAT preparation for that matter. This could be also a question that can be probed into. Now, I will take a few minutes on who you are. When we talk about oneself, when we talk about yourself, how well you say, and it is not just that, hey, I was born in so-and-so place, I've done my schooling in so-and-so school, I've done my graduation in so-and-so place, and these kind of very, very obvious answers are not going to give you any kind of a meat in the interview. You're not going to impress anybody. It's like a love story where you say that, hey, boy meets girl, the boy and the first initially fight, but there is some incident which happens wherein the boy suddenly starts loving the girl, or the vice versa, but there is a villain. The villain could be a third party. That villain could be a father of the bride or the bridegroom, or the boy or the girl. At the end of the day, they sort it out, and then voila, the movie ended. They are living happily ever after. This could be an answer. This could be a probable love story. But is that the way you say it? Everything, whether it's Romeo and Juliet or a Dil Wale Dulhania Le Jayenge that has come 25 years back, probably, at the end of the day, it is how you tell your story that matters. It is the way you express your story that matters. It's not what is the story that matters. Everybody, to a large extent, have done either an engineering or a non-engineering, maybe a degree or a non-degree. And thinking of an MBA. There are 15 lakh engineers who graduate every year. There are another 50 lakh non-engineers who graduate every year. Every year in this country, 65 lakh people graduate. Approximately, I'm giving you a number. Check it out if you don't believe this. 65 lakhs, mind you. Now, of the 65 lakhs, 2 odd lakh people write the CAT exam. And if you're talking about the top B schools, maybe 10,000 students only get a interview call, or 20,000 at max for all the top 50, 60 schools. I'm not even talking about the top IIMs. Where is 65 lakhs? And where are these 20,000 students who are getting interview calls? And yet, when you go into an interview, that guy, the interviewer, the professor will kind of look at you very accusingly and say, hey, what have you been doing? You have done a BA and MA? Coming to an MBA? Are you crazy? You already done BTech 4 years back. You're working in TCS and still want to do an MBA. You know, these kind of very, or you're from an IIT. You've wasted 4 years of IIT and still now want to waste 2 more years of an MBA. You know, any such kind of a guilt trip they can take you to. And hence, when such a kind of a question comes in, you need to understand one thing, that you are the 20,000 or 10,000 unique people among the 65 lakh people year on year. And actually, if you consider that people can write when they're in the final year and after finishing the graduation and up to 2-3 years at least, if you look at it broadly, you're talking about you being the top 20,000 people in the entire country among 2.5 crore people who have graduated either engineering or non-engineering. You have to be special. You really have to be special. And I'm telling you, whether or not you believe this, trust me when I'm saying this, you are special. Even if you find that there is nothing in your CV to write home about, if there's nothing in your CV to say that you have got any Olympiad, any NTSE scholarship, any first rank, or any extracurricular activity to boot. Yet I can tell you, the fact that you have chosen to write this exam called CAT, you have got an interview or a ZAT or a NAT or a NMAT or a SNAP for that matter, and you have got this call for an interview, means you are definitely one among the best. I think this entire story about your life story starts with that, my friends. It starts because if you don't believe that, when you go into an interview, you will be far more fearful, far more worried of what your interviewer is looking at you, what the interviewer is thinking about you, what the interviewer, whether he is agreeing to what you're saying or not. You know, that is not your job at all. That is not your job at all as far as the interview is concerned. Your job is to portray your story. It's about telling your story as truthfully as possible. And I'll come down to that very quickly. So the first part of your entire interview preparation should be about yourself. Prepare it so well that you are selling yourself. Okay. Then what do you want to do? Now, it's about who you are. But the next question that can ask and that will be asked is, what do you want to do? Why have you come here? So the questions could be, why have you done what you have done till today? Because it has to connect. Understanding and explaining what you have done. Lots of people come back, and again, I'm giving you an example here. Students come back and ask me, hey, sir, tell me something. Should I do this internship? Should I do that certification? Should I do that project? My answer to those questions is, why do you want to do that? Is that if you're thinking that just by showcasing an NGO in your CV, you're going to become better? No, it is not going to. You should do something which will really add value to yourself and why you are doing it to yourself. Something about you should get reflected in what you have done. That is where the why MBA comes into picture. The next question, not only about why MBA now? That could be another important question too. Now, when I talk about an MBA, why MBA? I look at it as 2 parts of the game. The first part is pre-MBA. What all have you done in your life? What all have been your influences or influencers? what work you have done, what projects you have done, what reading that you have done, what learning that you have done, what activities that you have done, extracurricular or co-curricular or anything else, which has believed or made you believe that the next part of your life should be an MBA. That connection from the past. Can you bring that? It could be with one single story. It could be with one anecdotal evidence of what has happened in your past. Some influencer who kind of inspired you and therefore you picked it up. That's one idea. The second part of the story is when you go to the next part. Okay, now that you have wanted to do an MBA because of whatever the past, what do you want to do from now? How do you want to take it up from here? It's not just that I want a job or I want a 25, 30 lakh, 35 lakh job. Of course you want. No. Who doesn't want a job, by the way? Everybody wants a job and a good, well-paid job. But the problem is, so does everybody else. So why should you get that kind of a job, or your reason for looking for a better growth opportunity, career opportunity, growth opportunity should be the reason I should give you a seat. I could have given it to anybody else. Therefore, why should I take an interview at all? I could have picked up anybody from a lottery hat. Which is the reason why, as a professor, as an interviewer, I want to understand, bhai, do you have any clarity what you want to do? Some clarity. I'm not saying you want to become a CEO of XYZ company. No, that's not what we are expecting. What the interviewer expects is that, does this guy have some clarity of what he or she wants to do 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, even if it is not the perfect answer. It is not that I want to reach that position. Somewhere, some kind of a learning has to come into picture. And then, of course, why MBA now becomes an important thing. Then questions will come. Why MBA from this college? For example, especially this question comes in when, let's say you have an IIM Shillong interview and also an IIM Ahmedabad interview. I'm just giving you a random thought. And you are into an IIM Shillong interview and they ask you, what other calls do you have? And you say, sir, I have IIM Ahmedabad. You want to say, hey, I have Ahmedabad. Please make sure that you give me Mr. Shillong. No. They're not going to give you that. They're going to ask you, okay, beta, you have this IIM Shillong. You have an IIM Ahmedabad. Which one will you take? Now, you can't come back and say, and you can't absolutely very easily and say, hey, of course, I will take IIM Ahmedabad. The moment you say IIM Ahmedabad, they will say, thank you so much. Bye-bye. And why? Because if you have already decided that you want to go to IIM Ahmedabad and you come to an IIM Shillong interview as a interview practice, why should I even bother giving you one? I said, bhag jao. You are interested in me. You may be interested in somebody else also. It might be IIM Ahmedabad, but unless you showcase to me that you are really interested in me, I, as an B school, will not consider you important. I think that is very, very, very important. And how do I know you want to? How do you tackle this kind of a question? And the only way one tackles this kind of a question is to tell about the business school that you are in, the business school interview that you are attending. You should tell much more about that business school in the interview to the interviewer, to the professor, saying that, sir, I have researched about IIM Shillong. There are 3 points which really, really make me feel good about doing an MBA from an IIM Shillong. A, B, C. I'm not giving you the answer. Please go to their website, speak to one of the seniors, talk to a few people, get something very, very good about them and talk about those 3 things. Then they will ask you, oh, but IIM Ahmedabad also has. Absolutely, sir. Ahmedabad also has things. But if I were to choose IIM Shillong, I will choose based on these 3 factors. But if I also get an IIM Ahmedabad, I will probably look at the other choices and then take a decision. But sir, I'll be very, very happy to join IIM Shillong too, or an MIMS too, or an IIMT Ghaziabad too, or XYZ too. The idea here is to showcase to that interviewer that you are not looking at this only as a practice exercise and your allegiances lay somewhere else. That's not the impression that you are expected to give in an interview. You want to say, boss, I'm interested in you. Please take me. That's the way to put it across. Then other questions that can come, what you want to do is, okay, fine, you said everything, your past is good, present is better, future is appearing good. But what if you don't get into an MBA? What else will you do? Is there a choice? Why are they asking this question? This question is also important because this question showcases the real true manager that you are, or the would-be manager that you are. Because a true manager, a true leader will always have a contingency plan. That doesn't mean that he will based or he or she will be depending on the contingency plan. Idea will be to make sure that you are absolutely gunning for what you want, but also just in case you miss, you have an alternate plan ready. That is what you need to be able to showcase. Which talks about your future goals, whether or without an MBA, your future goals cannot have really changed in that sense. So these future goals will be both long-term and short-term. So the first thing is about your personal life story, that one, you have to prepare very clearly. What are the things that I've always said and we believe in is, if you write your own autobiography and read it across, maybe a 6,000, 4,000, 3,000 word autobiography without any filters, you will know everything about yourself, all your ideas, all your strengths, weaknesses, reasons, what you want to do, what your influencers, everything will come into that kind of a life story. And that is where 50% of your interview could be focused on. Who are you and what do you want are very important. The second part of your interview, when you want to ace this personal interview, would be the professional life story. Now, professional life story, those of you who are working will have something. Those of you who are not working will at least have an academic. So one is school and college. One is, of course, the work experience. Just a second. School and college. What are the subjects that you like the most? Please understand that they will ask you this question or questions from the subject that you learned. Probably that you'll dislike too. Why did you choose this stream? What was the choice of graduation? What kind of projects that you do? What kind of internships, if at all, you have done? What are the extracurriculars that you have done? Any and all of these. In addition to this, one extra area that they can ask you, and I want you to underline it for yourself because you're going for an MBA course, wherever you do it, IIMs, IITs, any other institutes, one area which will be asked, which is almost certain to be asked in almost 8 out of 10 interviews, is basic math. When I'm talking about basic math, basic algebra, basic probability, basic statistics, basic graphs, understanding of basic functions. These are things which can be easily asked in your schools and college. Now, can you prepare every subject that you have done? No, not really. Especially if you have done 4 years engineering, you know that there were 30, 40 subjects. You can't do everything. But then ask yourself one thing. If you want to be called yourself a mechanical engineer, would you not want to be asked, or if, let's say, I'm going to reverse this. Let's say you want to say somebody is a mechanical engineer. What do you expect from him? That he will know basics of thermodynamics at least. He will know basics of fluid mechanics at least. He may not know design. He may not know a lot of things, but he will know at least thermodynamics. He will know at least IC engines. He will know at least basic fluid mechanics, heat transfer. This much at least I can expect from a mechanical engineer, if not everything else. Automobiles maybe, may not be, but IC engines at least. Similarly, if you're a BCom, don't you think I should at least expect what on earth a P&L looks like? What on earth a balance sheet looks like? Where on earth will depreciation come in? Will it come under profit and loss statement? Will it come under balance sheet? Where does it come at least? What is the current ratio? What is the quick ratio? For example, we are now going through this Adani's huge meltdown. The Heidenberg's report says that all of 7 Adani companies have a quick ratio of either 1 or less than 1. The current ratio of 1 or less than 1. What does this mean? Don't you think as a BCom, a commerce graduate, an economics graduate, you should know? If you're an economics graduate, don't you think you should know what is a demand supply problem? What's a break-even point? You know, at the end of the day, please understand that they are not going to grill you into something which you're not supposed to know. So look inward. Look into yourself saying that, who are you? If you are a BA in English or an MA in English, what do you want to know? You need to know what are the various eras of literature, literary things, romanticism or of the French at some point of time, or Shakespearean time, or whatever the latest literature, whatever you have learned. They may ask you those things, saying that, okay, tell me the various eras of how the literature has moved, especially English, of course. Similarly, you could be a Sanskrit guy. Idea here is that they are not going to ask you very, very specific questions. They'll ask you broader questions, whether you understand what you have done being a graduate. Then the second thing is work experience. If you're working somewhere, wherever you're working, these are some of the things which should be there. Nobody else knows. Please understand, only and only you should know this better than anybody else, because you are working there. What is your role? What are your KPIs? What are your achievements at work? What are your extra achievements at non-work within the work environment? Company related information. If you're working for an organization, you should know at least the basic turnover, the profit, the share price if it is listed, or the planned growth over the next few years. Anything that has come about your company in the newspapers, especially business newspapers, somewhere you should know at least something about it. Industry relation. So if you're working in one company, what is the industry that you're related to? Anything to do with industry related. Chat GPT these days, everybody's talking about if you're in IT. For example, you're in IT, Infosys, TCS, Satyam, or HCL for that matter. People say that, hey boss, your entire ability to write a code is going to be done by Chat GPT automatically. Why would you be required at all? So it is industry related information. AI, ML, we have talked about ad infinitum for the last 3 years. AI, ML, Python, digital marketing. I don't know, everywhere you go, you only see this. But what does it mean to you? And how is this industry changing? What new technologies are coming in? Whichever area that you're picking up, by the way. I'm just talking about one example. What are the future prospects of that industry and your company? You know, all these things will be your professional life. So if you ask me in a nutshell, apart from one other area, which will come back to you as far as your interview is concerned, your personal life story, your professional life story, and the third one, which is very, very important, which is going to come in, is your social life story. If you can do these three things, personal, professional, and social life story, and weave this as your interviewer, because you're the personal interview, I think it could be a winning interview. Now let's look at what is there in your social life story. It's about your city and state, where you have been born, your specifics of your city or a town where you're born, you're grown up, your school, your college, everything about that part of the story. Or for example, if you're from any institute like an IIT and you're from a hostel, they can ask you, hey, what's the name of the hostel? If that other guy also is from a similar IIT or an institute, they can ask you what is the significance of that. If he's not from that, maybe not. Business, politics, and people will come. Right now, Adani is the big guy. The budget has come in. Yesterday, the budget has come in. So all the economic indicators of the budget. Have you read what is a fiscal deficit? Have you looked at what is a revenue deficit? Have you looked at what is the percentage of fiscal deficit on GDP? How is fiscal deficit calculated? What is GDP itself in the first place? How has GDP been growing? IMF says we will grow 6.1%. Somebody else says we go 6.8%. What does it mean? Budget. Other thing which will be very relevant is for your income tax. What is the old regime? What is the new regime? You can't say that, sir, I don't know anything. My CA does it. Can't be an answer. You have to get. How does this budget affect agriculture? How does this budget affect defense? How does this budget affect infrastructure? How does this budget affect health? How does this budget affect education? How does this budget affect startups for that matter? How does this budget affect a lot of other things? That is the economic indicator unit. The per capita income, we have said that we are at 1,94,000 rupees, $2,400 approximately. How do we improve? We want to be a 5 trillion economy. How do we get there? Those things. Population. We are the largest, most probably the most populous country in the world today. We might just have overtaken China. So what does it mean to us? Are we going to continue to grow and become explode? Or is there a plateauing happening? What is the growth rate that we are getting into? What is the replenishment rate, the fertility rate? All those kind of questions that can come in. Economic indicators. Enough information is there on Wikipedia for that matter. You don't have to go anywhere else. Please go through that without fail. Or one day back before the budget, yesterday was the budget, the prior day, one day prior, the economic survey came in. Please read up on the survey. It will really, really help you. And if you're a woman and you want to be a business leader, it's interesting, but more often than not, they can ask you, okay, tell me about more of the women leaders. You can't only talk about the Naika girl or Kiran Majumdar Shah alone kind of things. Pick up about 5-7 of them. Do some research on each of these earlier, current leaders, international leaders, Indian leaders. It will definitely help you. And the last one, of course, is international affairs in the social life story. That also affects us, whether it's business, whether it's political, whether it's sports, whether it's terrorism, whether it's impact of COVID. All these things do matter to us. So once again, very, very quickly, if I were to sum up what you need to prepare, these are 3 areas: the personal life story, professional life story, and your social life story. And for each of these things, if I were with you, I'll pick up a kind of a notebook, make sure that I write down all of these things or an Excel sheet, and make sure that I read up a lot. And one is understanding the answers. The other is practicing these answers. One is, of course, you can give your mock interviews. No problems at it. But before giving the mock interviews, here is what my simple advice to you would be. In front of the mirror, look into the mirror and talk to yourself. Look at the way you are speaking. Check whether you are convincing to yourself first. Because if you don't have to convince anybody else in this world, you need to convince only and only yourself. Because if you can convince yourself, the way you speak, the conviction comes out. And the conviction comes out, everybody else will believe you. And that's something very, very important. So now let me take you through the key ingredients of your story. Like I said, this is all about selling your story. What I've given you are the indicators of what will come in the interview. But I'm going to tell you, how do you sell your story and how are the key points that you should never forget or build on, which will kind of make it into a nice story to sell. The first thing is your story should be truthful and, of course, honest. It probably will have a lot of mistakes and failures. Your story, your life, by the way, will have had certain mistakes and failures. It's okay to fail, okay to have mistakes. But it's also about overcoming those challenges that you have faced in your life. And last but not the least, how do you learn from the challenges and bounce back? 22 years of your life. More often than not, all of you will be in the 21 to 25 years age. In this 21 to 25 years of age, or some of you slightly more, what is it that, what are the anecdotes? What are those incidents? What are those experiences which have made you go through these things? Some of them will be successes, some of them will be failures. Typically, we learn more from the failures than from successes. I'm not saying with successes we will not learn, but we will learn more from the failures. If you have not had failures, no problems. But even the successes could have come, should have come, I believe, through certain kind of a methodology that you have found. Methodology that you have employed for that matter. And I think that is what you need to talk about. The key ingredients of a good story has to have these things. And believe me, if you look at any movie theater, if you go to any movie, if you go to any theater for that matter, and any story you look at it, you will almost always find that the hero or the heroine of the novel does this. You are the hero of your novel. You are the heroine of your interview. And that, my friends, is what we are looking at. By the way, I do understand that a lot of you may not have questions right away, but here is what I would expect you to do. If you are seeing this live on YouTube, make sure that any questions that you have, post it on it. My colleague will also help me post it, and therefore I will be able to answer the moment this is over. In terms of making sure that any questions that you want will be shared. Now, how do you tell your story? One, your story should begin somewhere. You grew up where, your family, your city, your school, it has to have these ingredients about what happened at the young age. But more important than that is that in your story, what have been your turning points of the story? What have been the aha moments, which kind of, oh, this is what has happened for me. Turning points and aha moments. This is where the real learning happens. And that is where, when you speak about it, you can sell better. It should not be, like I said, bland. Even if they tell me about yourself, if I were you, the way I will say, sir, I will tell you about my story in 3 parts. First is about my very quick about family. I will tell you about the school and college that I went to. And the third thing that I'm going to tell you also is the city and the friends that I've had. All these 3 things have been influencing me as a person that I am. Remember, personal interview, you only know, the interviewer only knows who you are, but now you are telling them a story of how it has helped. You come from a business family, for example, or you come from a family where everybody is an educationist, or you come from a family who is only a farmer, or all of them have been farmers and are not so well educated, or you come a family where everybody is a government servant. Whatever it is, it kinds of rubs onto you. That doesn't mean it will stay with you. It can positively impact you, or it can positively or rather negatively impact you. How has it impacted you and why? That's the family part of it. Then the cities that you have grown in, for that matter. If you have grown in a city like a Nagpur, for example, vis-a-vis Delhi, or vis-a-vis a small town in Ranchi, each of the persons will have a different, or a Chennai for that matter, who was down south. My point is, depending on the city, that city will have an influence on you, or the town that you have been born and brought up in will have an influence on you. And 1 or 2 incidents of that city or town should have left an indelible impression on your mind. That is what I want you to talk about. And then school and college. It's not that I've gone to a school, Bal Vidyarthi Mandar, whatever that may be, let's say, and what is there to say? But there could be an incident about a teacher, about a student, about a assembly, about the principal, about anything, incidents, and how it has influenced you. Your story need not be, and I'm telling you, and it has to be done in very succinct manner, very succinctly, very short but sweet manner, these things. And then you can talk about the turning points. Then your college years, once the school is over, what did you learn in college? What did you contribute in college? You can't say that I've been going every day and coming back. Even there, I'm pretty sure if you dig deep into your own memory, you will find that you have done something for this college. And what have you done in your free time? It could be just gappe marna or sitting in the canteen and having chai. But even there, something would have come in. Maybe you would have thought about startups, which is the reason why you are coming to an MBA where everybody else has gone off to rate a GRE and go off to the US for that matter. What has inspired you, even in the cup of coffee that every day you have in the college canteen, and how it has shaped you? It could have been some kind of a business, competition which might have come in the college years, which is the reason why you've done it. Or you would have been a festival coordinator for that matter. There are lots of fests, cultural fests, sports fest, this fest, that tech fest. You would have been a part of one of these things. And what really influenced you, who you are? That could be what you can talk about your college years. That's what your story is all about. Your work. Even in work, why did you join this thing? Doesn't mean that there's a first company which came to campus. Just because it's the first company, you don't apply. But you came to the campus because there was a lot of expectation from you because you are one of the best. And that's why you got it. What do you do in that company? What are the key things that you have done where you have contributed X, Y, Z to it? Don't talk generally, talk quantitatively if you can. And while not all of you like your jobs, and that's the reason why you want to get out of this and do an MBA, there should be something about your job which you like. It could be as simple as every month you will get a check from there, fair enough. But something about your job which you like, which you are able to continue with. Remember, nobody will continue with it if there are certain things that you don't, at least certain things that you don't like about your job. Can you just focus on the good things? Whether it is your city, school, family, college, or work. One of the basic expectations that are that will be there very much, and the very, very important expectation that will be there is that you have to be positive in your interviews. You have to be absolutely, absolutely positive in your interviews, and keep that in mind always. And last, when you're telling your story, you will also talk about your failures. You failed. What did you learn from the failure? Will also be a story. Remember, this is what I'm talking about, the personal stories that you can look at. In addition, this is me. I have my strengths and weaknesses that you can talk about. Again, there is no good strengths to have or no bad weaknesses to not say, except saying that I'm a kleptomaniac kind of things you can avoid. Anything else can be your weakness. Don't worry about that. But can there be an example when you're saying, how has this weakness affected you negatively? How has the strength affected you positively? Where have you used this strength? It is not an assumed strength. It has to be some strength which you have used. Similarly, give examples is what I would say. Other details like my performance probably in my schooling was not up to the mark. My degree was not up to mark. What is the decisions for that? Reason whatever decisions that you've taken. One question that you can, if you go back in time, what would you do change? What would you change? Most of us may not want to change anything, but if there is something which you want to change, that is where you improve your weaknesses. Typically, when you go back in time, and what you would do is not waste time. For example, if I go back to my school, or especially in Calcutta that I went to, probably this time I'll spend a little more time in the classroom, because more often than not, I was spending time everything outside the classroom too. That could have been the only difference. Or maybe spend more time on the library, which I did, but I was sleeping in the library rather than actually doing anything. I think that is what I would probably change, because I understand the value of a library today. I understand the value of sitting in that 2 hours and probably listening to the 2 hours class and may get the 2-minute value of that entire 2-hour class. But the 2-minute value could be changing what you think and how you think as you go along. The next one is, of course, where you want to be, which I talked about, why you want to be and the reason for that, and specific things. Now, this is what the last point I'm going to tell you before I kind of open it up. Any questions that you might probably have is that before you get out of the interview room, your job is to tell at least these 5 points to the interviewer. Now, at least write down 5 points in your interview. For example, if you go on a date with a girl, there's something good about you, or a boy, if you're a girl for that matter. There's something that you want the other person to take away about you, right? Something good about you. You don't want to have a meeting for 15 minutes and you come back and saying, yaar, ye to maine bola hi nahi hai. I didn't even tell this most important thing about myself. You don't want to be in that kind of a position. And in that is the reason why I'm saying, when you are preparing for your interview, make sure that you write the 5 most important points that you want to talk about. It could be any incidents of your life. It could be that you have worked, rather, let's say you have learned Bharatanatyam for 10 years. Somewhere that has to come. So somebody says, hey boss, what are your strengths? I will say, my strength is resilience or perseverance, let's say. My strength is perseverance, sir. When all about me, people were playing computer games or were on chat or on Instagram, I used 2 hours of my time year after year, all through my years from class 6 onwards, till class 20, whatever that may be, in learning Bharatanatyam and not missing a single day or a single week. That's so while the question may be something else, you want to talk about that, hey, you have worked on Bharatanatyam for 10 years, you will speak about that thing. So in an interview, there will be multiple chances where the 5 points, the most important 5 points that you want the interviewer to know about you. There are points which you want the interviewer not to know. We will try to obviously avoid that. But those 5 points which I want my interview to know, I will make a note of it completely in my preparation plan. When I make it, saying that now any questions which come in, whatever the questions may be, your idea would be to make sure that questions can be turned around to talk about your points. And that is what I would say is the most thing about your story. Before the most other important questions is ethics in interview. You have to be absolutely ethical in an interview. You need to be absolutely honest in interview too. The moment they get to know that either you are dishonest or you are unethical, you can kiss goodbye to that interview. Questions like, are you a manager or a leader? Make few points saying that, sir, a manager is ABC, a leader is PQR. I have these AB points and I have these QR points. I am a middle of a manager and a leader, but more of a leader, less of a manager, more of a manager, less of a leader. It doesn't matter what it is. But what they are asking is that, do you even understand who a manager is or who a leader is? And you can do a little bit of a recce and a Google on that. Which institute to choose between X and Y? You can neither choose X nor Y, especially in an interview, because you don't have the final selection in either of the two. So, but play it smart. Don't hurt the ego of the interviewer at all, or don't to butter the interviewer also too much. Also, the ability of a leader, ability of a manager is to kind of be equanimous, but at the same time be very energetic too. Questions like, why should we select you? Is about, again, a chance to talk about those 5 points that I talk about. So there are 5 reasons what I want you to know about me. And that is the reason why I believe they are all connected to why I want to do an MBA. And therefore you should select me, sir. Don't worry about that question. Why should we select you? Why should we select you it's like a cow question. You can do whatever you want. You can answer whatever you want because it's an open-ended question. But however, they can ask you, give us 3 reasons to reject you, for example. These kind of questions also come in an interview. What do you say that? Sir, frankly, I wish I will not be the person to tell you to reject me, because I would love to get into this institute, but I know that you're asking a very serious question. My one possible reason why you can reject me is that my scores are not good enough. 2, I have a lesser number of years of experience than I probably ought to have to get into their institute. Or the 3rd reason, sir, I'm not able to think about any 3rd reason why you should not. Maybe the interview that I have given you is not up to the mark as which I can probably give, and therefore you are not as convinced about my being a student as I expect you to be, and hence maybe you can reject me too, sir. That's another thing. That's one simple answer. Or another answer is, sir, what I understand from the selection process is that there are marks that are given to me for my 10th, 12th degree CAT or ZAT or whatever exam, and the interview and the WAT-PI, right? One obvious reason why I get rejected is that the rest of the world is above me, or at least if there are 100 seats, 100 people are above me and I'm only the 101st one, possibly. That is one reason. But my endeavor, sir, is to make sure that I don't have to be in the wait list. That is what I'm looking at. Some such kind of an answer, very positive answer, is what they will look at from you. Before I close, let me see if there are any questions. My colleague, I don't know whether if there are any questions I can answer. But before I do, a couple of things that I am associated with. I've been talking to the various all institutes. The last dates are over. Those of your engineers specifically, the last date for all IITs except IIT Kharagpur and now IIT Kanpur, the last date for applications are over. I just found out that IIT Kharagpur is 5th of February and IIT Kanpur, again, a fantastic institute like IIT Bombay or Delhi or Kharagpur, The last date is 10th of February. I hope you guys note that. There are other institutes which are coming up whose last dates will keep, in February. Make sure that you don't miss out on any one of these things is what I would say. Now, one question that I'm going to answer, which has come on YouTube, is Palak has asked, how deep should we dig into the subjects? Because it's a management institute and I have studied commerce. I'm supposed to know everything. Palak, you're not supposed to know everything, but you're supposed to know what you have learned, at least as much as your subjects tell you. Economics, basic statistics, business statistics, mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and variance. For example, within standard deviation, they will ask you, hey boss, what is this Six Sigma? What is the way you calculate a standard deviation kind of things if it is statistics? Commerce, they can ask you anything in accounts, commerce, income tax, audit. What they are asking you is not the depth of it, but at least the breadth of it. Make sure that you have the basic idea, saying that if you are a commerce graduate, that you are well worth saying that that you are a commerce graduate. You can prove that you are a commerce graduate. And how do you prove it? By at least answering questions on depreciation, P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, fund flow, these kind of things. And of course, in other subjects also. Komal is asking, how can we say for a gap of 1 to 1.5 years, no UPSC, no medical, what else? Okay, Komal, when we say gap of 1.5 years, there should at least be, this is where I'm saying, apart from preparing for CAT, you could have done something types of, let's say, some extra work. Maybe you could have taught tuitions at home. Because of COVID, you did not get a job, because of which you kind of taught a 10-year-old, 10th class kid to make sure that he or she aces the math. Maybe a maid's kid you have helped, or something like that, which will help you to say that, hey, you have not wasted the entire 1.5 years. It is, if you're finished, 1 second, guys. 1 second. Sorry. So what I'm saying is, you have to have at least done one internship, one project, some extra work, or at least read a lot of books. Anything which will say that, hey, 1.5 years was not only on preparation for CAT. If it is not a health problem, not a UPSC problem, I understand that. Weakness, Komal, like I said, it's important to understand that anything can be a weakness. You can be short-tempered, you can be impatient, you can be a procrastinator, you can be lazy, you can be anything, any one of these things. Or you panic fast, you are over-anxious, you think too much, any one of these things. But you need to be explained to people in the interview, how do you overcome that? At least when it matters the most. Like, why should we select you, Komal? I have answered this question very clearly. Whenever somebody asks me this, why should we select you? The only thing is, I'll go back to my points that I want to talk about. What is good about me? It could be strengths. It could be some anecdotes where I have come across, despite failure, done better. And something which is connecting me to the MBA. It's almost like a why MBA answer I can give. Pragadish, how to justify the gap of 4 years preparing for UPSC exams? Now, Pragadish, if you have this, the best answer that I'll give you is say the truth. Trust me, I know of a student who has prepared for 8 years, not a general candidate. Actually, 6 times he has written, 8 years of gap. Went to IIM Bangalore, I know of for sure, but we advised him and he has done the same thing, saying that, sir, I was clear from day one that I wanted to get into either administration or management. Given the kind of a background I have from my family and the influences that I got, I gave my best to UPSC. Thrice or twice I cleared the prelims. Once I cleared the finals, but I could not clear the interview. I got something XYZ, very nondescript offering. Therefore, I did not pick it up, because the idea was not to just get power, or the idea was not get to sit into a government job. The idea was to make a difference. And I realized that if I can't do that in a UPSC by being an IAS officer or an IFS, IPS officers, I would want to use this in the private sector, and which is the reason why I'm coming to an IIM or any other institute that you're thinking of. Very, very clearly, very strongly, Pragadish, you can answer this question. Arjun is asking, sir, top B schools have good placement records over the years while compared to state colleges, locals. The reason is very simple, Arjun. When you talk about top B schools, they are focused only on placement. They are focused only on business management. For example, the IIMs, the whole college is only about that business management college. Nothing else happens. Whereas if you're talking about state colleges, typically they will have many other departments also. Even if you talk about the IITs, which have an MBA department, it's a completely different department. It's a completely different department, entity in itself, autonomous body in itself, whether it is the Sailesh Gupta School of Management in IIT Bombay, or Vinod Gupta School of Management, Sailesh J. Mehta and Vinod Gupta in IIT Kharagpur, or at Delhi's DMS, Department of Management Studies, or DIME in Kanpur, or a Madras, all of them have independence in the way they do it. And hence, the faculty members are all focused on management. When you talk about local colleges or state colleges, they don't have the same kind of a focus on management education or the faculty that they take. And hence, they don't have the best of the placements, because the companies will understand the difference. Okay. Now, that's where I come from. Here is what you can reach me at arks25@gmail.com, or you can also go on to connect me at www.arkss.in. Most welcome to do that. But here is what I would say, guys. Getting into a personal interview, getting a call from a personal interview from any business school, doesn't matter whether it's good, bad, ugly, is a great opportunity in itself. Whether you will join or not is a completely different matter. Go back to this particular video, look at all the basics that you need to be very, very good at. You don't really have to do anything beyond what I have said. Read the newspaper every day. Make sure that when you go in, your job is not to convince the guy in front of you. Your job, once again, I'm repeating it, is to convince yourself. What you don't know, you will say, I don't know. What you know, say it absolutely confidently. It is not what you say that matters. It is how you say that matters. With that, thank you so much. Thanks, Inside IIM, for calling me on this particular session. I hope it was very useful to you. If it is, do give us comments on the YouTube channel. And of course, you can always write to me. I'll be very happy to help you out as we go along in this season. Thank you so much. Wish you all the very best.